donated to a charity or an NGO in Malaysia, this is something you're definitely going to want to hear. The government is rolling out a major crackdown on how these organizations operate, and it's all about one thing: making sure your money actually gets to where it's supposed to go. So, what is really happening here?
Well, this whole conversation really exploded thanks to a pretty powerful statement from Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. I mean, that's a blunt admission, and it sets a really serious tone. It's basically saying, hey, we have a major problem with how charitable money is being handled in this country.
And so, in response to that, the Prime Minister has announced a huge push for much, much stricter rules and, frankly, better governance for all charitable groups. And let's be clear, this isn't just a small adjustment. We're talking about a complete overhaul of the system.
But why the sudden drastic move? Well, it all boils down to one single troubling question. When people donate, where is that money really going? Right, let's just get to the heart of it. People are generous, right? You donate, the government gives out funds, all with the best intentions. And this is especially important right now, when government budgets are tight and every single ringgit is precious. So where's the breakdown? What is going fundamentally wrong here?
And here it is, the simplest way to put it. There's a huge disconnect between the money being collected and the money being distributed. The help people are trying to give is just getting lost somewhere along the way. And look, this isn't just some vague concern. The Prime Minister pointed to some very real examples. He talked about funds that were collected for important causes like Palestine that, well, just never got there. You've got NGOs legally raising money, but then it just sits there. They fail to actually pass it on. The government's calling it widespread misconduct, and it's a systemic problem that's stopping aid right in its tracks. Okay, so that's the problem. How is the government actually planning on fixing this? They've laid out a pretty direct plan that's all about tighter control and a whole lot more oversight. Let's dig into what that looks like.
So the official plan really boils down to 3 key steps. First, control. They're going to increase oversight on pretty much all humanitarian groups and trust funds. Second, monitor. They're pushing the registrar of companies to keep a much closer eye on these organizations. And third, scrutinize. They're going to make sure that the reports these NGOs hand in are actually being properly reviewed, not just filed away in a cabinet somewhere. But this whole plan isn't just about adding more rules for the sake of it. The real goal here is to create a new standard of total transparency. It's about moving away from just trusting pledges and moving toward demanding actual proof of where the money went. Think of it as a huge shift in how things are done. We're leaving behind the old way, where oversight was kind of loose and reports might not even get a second look. Now, we're moving to a new mandate that demands strict procedures, complete transparency, and scrutiny that is absolutely mandatory. So, what does transparency actually look like in practice? It's not just a buzzword. It means every single one of these organizations now has to follow a strict set of procedures. They have to be upfront about the total amount of money they raised for a cause. And here's the key part. They have to be just as upfront about the total amount that was actually given to the people who need it. I know, this can sound like a lot of boring red tape and bureaucracy, but it actually connects directly to you, to the act of giving, and to the trust that makes it all possible. So at the end of the day, with all these new rules and regulations, what does this actually mean for you, the average person who just wants to lend a hand? It's really about protecting generosity itself. Especially at a time when money is tight for everyone, the goal here is to make sure that all donations, whether they come from an individual like you or from the government's own funds, are actually effective. It's about making sure that money serves its purpose instead of just getting wasted or lost in the shuffle. And this chart illustrates the whole situation perfectly. When you donate, you expect a small slice to go to administrative costs, right? That's totally normal. And the goal, of course, is for the biggest slice to get to the people who need help. But it's this third slice, the one for funds that are lost or misappropriated, that's the problem. That's the black hole where goodwill vanishes. These new rules are designed to shrink that slice down to 0. So the end game here is actually pretty simple. It's all about rebuilding trust. The government wants to create a system where anyone, you, me, corporations, anyone, can donate with total confidence, knowing that their money is going to make a real impact and not just disappear. And that, of course, leads us to the final and most important question. Putting in tighter controls and demanding transparency is a huge step forward, no doubt. But will it be enough to truly restore the public's faith in the act of giving? Well, that's something we'll have to wait and see.